Marky Worthington Podcast all day.
All day.
Dream by night.
Don't buy me a drink. Just give me $10.
All day.
Go down to the strip club with your floppy disk and turn it into a hard drive.
Yeah, right. You'll get fucking thrown out by Big Tony.
We're here to name names and make people feel more ashamed for shit that they're not proud of.
Don't blow it. Keep it simple. Count your money.
No, whatever it is.
Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the Marky Worthington Comedy Podcast. This is episode 82 with the legend Doug Stanhope. It was really, really cool to have Doug on the show. I got through a lot of the questions that I wanted to ask him. And we also got a lot of back and forth as well, just general chat about comedy and previous gigs. There was stuff in there about previous episodes, guests that he's had on his podcast, things like that. So whether you're a fan of Doug's from over the years or you've just stumbled on him recently, there's heaps of good content in here. It's all covered off, so it was really cool to have him on the show. Doug's got a gig coming up in Canberra at the Basement on the 27th of February. You can get the tickets in the show notes below. And if you're listening to this episode as an audio only, then you'll get as much out of it as most other podcasts, but at the same time, if you do want to watch this on YouTube, there's a few visual parts of the show as well. So either way, whichever platform you're on, whether it's the audio platforms, which is like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of the other options that you've got there, then you'll still get as much out of this. We're both kind of conscious that some people listen to podcasts and some people watch, but if you're watching this on YouTube at Marky Comedy, then you'll be able to get a couple of the visuals as well. So either way, it's worth checking it out on any of the platforms. But I mean, without further ado, let's get into it.
I love that it's the Marky Worthington podcast with Marky Worthington.
Let's start with autism, because isn't one of the symptoms or part of autism is they generally don't get jokes?
I guess it's
I want you to educate me. I thought that was part of the thing.
Okay, well, as an open mic comedian, I don't know how much education I can give on like full on breakdowns of spectrums and things like that. But I mean, if someone's willing to listen to it, I will say it. I think that the most part, the autism side of things, you sort of choose what you're into. There's like certain things that you might get, but I've been told multiple times like that things will just go over my head. Yeah, like I've been on dates
like
and
sarcasm.
Girls, yeah, like girls have just been like, so now is the part where you kiss me, like, and that's sort of where I'm like, oh, okay, then cool, this is going well. But yeah, it could go either way. Actually, that's how my current fiance and I managed to progress to the next base, because she was like, well, now's the part where we go on a second date. So I'm like, hey, that's cool. At least someone can hold my hand for this thing instead of me learning for myself.
Oh, okay. I thought you didn't. Now, all right, I get you now. Again, I'm a little bit high, so that's kind of like being on the spectrum for a minute. It's like if the spectrum was a gummy edible and it only lasted for 6 hours, that I'm on that spectrum with you.
Yeah, well, I guess you got to wind down after your shift at Domino's somehow.
I thought you were talking about yourself. Then I realized you're looking at my hat.
Yeah.
All right. I'm assuming, I don't even know what medium we're on. Are people seeing this or listening to this?
It's both. It'll be audio, but also on YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, then they will see that I'm wearing.
Yeah, but for audio listeners, Doug has a Domino's beanie on.
Yeah, I had an opening act, my friend Junior Stopka.
Yep.
And we were flying to a gig, and I'm like, all right, I'll fly you first class. But I had the idea to dress up as Domino's delivery people so I bought Domino's uniforms, and we get a pizza box, and we sat in different sections of a small, short first class flight, as though we were both Domino's workers but didn't know each other. And we had a pizza box, like we were delivering pizza via airplane.
That
in
is.
first class, and we'd have conversations about, yeah, what route do you work? And over seats.
I remember hearing some of that on the podcast, like with all the vintage Delta stuff that you give out to employees and things like that. I think that's really cool.
Yes. I have a bag right here. Yoink. There's my Delta bag.
Wow.
Delta gimmicks and vintage like drink coupons.
Yep.
Free drink from 1983 and like Crown Room passes.
Yep.
Crown Room was the Sky Club back in the 80s or 90s. And just going in and going, yeah, can I get in with this? What is this? Yeah. So, yeah, I have fun is what I'm saying.
The bag looks like it should have bowling balls in it and like the name of a place that shut down like 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was last held by John Candy when filming Uncle Buck or something like that.
I brought that bag to the hotel because I'll be flying I'm at the Tucson airport at a hotel, and I'll be flying when I fly to Australia. And then this is how they get. Wow, I'm a stuttering wreck. You go, I'm going to bring all my vintage Delta shit for the flight attendants, and they'll take care of me. And then you go, wait, that's Virgin Australia. It's a partner. They don't give a shit about Delta stuff. It's a partner. So yeah, I just realized that.
Yeah. So I've listened to your recent podcast where you're talking about like having to be in hotels as for home replacement for home at the moment and for on the tour as well. So you're pretty much doing like a hotel tour at the moment.
Oh yeah, we haven't talked about. Yeah, I had a house fire.
Yep.
Which is why I'm living in hotels, because mid-November, the roof burned off the house. So I'm going to be staying in hotels till at least April. So home is a hotel. I have all of my shit, like the entire house, all the stuff in it is put in storage until then. So I grabbed the stuff I needed. So I have stuff at my tour manager's house. In his safe is my passport that I just realized I'm going to need for Australia, but they're out of town. So now, and then there's stuff at my wife's house, and then I'm living in a hotel. So I have shit here, and then I go on vacation to a hotel, and then I go on the road to hotels, and I'm going to be in hotels for a while. And I'm losing my biscuits.
Yeah, I could imagine. I do have a question because related to that. Was there a specific suit that you were just like, I need that suit? If there was, and what's that?
I could go grab it. But well, you're going to see it on tour in Australia.
Oh yeah.
I love when people I wear vintage polyester 70s plaid suits, used car salesman suits on stage, and that's my look. And I love it when people dress up like me. Oh, I didn't know if I'd look like a dick, like wearing a Def Leppard t-shirt to a Def Leppard concert. No, I love it when you dress up like me. And this guy showed up with this sport coat that I go, I have to have that. And I had to like beg him to swap out. I was going to give him my game worn jersey. I just wore this on stage, man. Yeah. You won't swap out. And he's like, he was really drunk. Are you trying to fuck me over? And I'm like, no, and my other suit was, okay, I wore in my last special, this jacket. If you won't trade me a special worn jacket, and he finally acquiesced. And so, yeah, I'm going to bring that to Australia, and it's going to be way too goddamn hot. It's very thick polyester, and it's going to be smoking hot down there, which I love. But I hope they have AC in the venues I'm playing. Where are you?
So this is in Canberra. So you'll be in Canberra on the 27th. For anyone listening,
that's my second favorite place I've played there. Perth being the first.
Yep. Yeah.
I've never been to Darwin. I know Darwin would compete for first if I ever got there. I know I'm going to love it there. I just want to go there and not do a show.
Yeah. Well, last time you were in Canberra 2018, I was at the gig. I wore my Doug Stanhope rip-off pink jacket, suit jacket.
Nice.
I think I'll bring it to this one as well. So if you want
right.
to see it, I'll be wearing it again. It's been worn twice, and they're both to see your show. But I have that. I even got a matching like really thick yellow tie that goes on. Just doesn't make any sense how thick it is.
That's 70s. I'm so good at it now. I can go into the thrift store and reach through a thick stack of ties, and when I feel the thick one, I go, "That's vintage." All right, I pull that out rather than go through every individual one. If it's silky, it ain't shit.
Well, that's how some people would argue that I choose my dating history, but I have to change it over the years. Just reach until you get the thickest one, and then just go for it.
I'm bringing this cough with me to Australia. It's cigarettes, not the vid.
Oh,
that I know of.
I think
it could be way worse than just cigarettes. It could be COPD, could be cancer. I don't know, but it's not the vid because I don't talk to people.
Well, that's one advantage. I think that a lot of people that in Australia that haven't got the vid yet, I'm like, what do you do with your life? Like, how did you get this far without like talking to anyone or like getting that close to anybody?
Yeah, well, I assume if there's anywhere, Australia, I know it's mostly cities, but I envision like the outback where shit's going to have a hard time traveling. Human or virus.
Yeah, exactly. No, 100%. That's I actually have another thing which I have to ask because otherwise I'll get to the end and be like, fuck the thing that I was meant to ask. What happened with the celebrity death pool?
It became unfun. We used to do that like a fantasy football league just amongst ourselves, and then Joby decided to turn it into a website and a business, and then it made him fucking crazy. He spent all his time for really no money, and then so is it gone now?
From what I can see,
yeah, good.
Yep.
I would try to help him promote it, but I'm not even playing this anymore. Like now it's gotten too, like the same reason I don't play fantasy football. I watch the game, but I don't want to know who the players are or the stats. And like when it was 6 of us, it was fun to do. But when it became a business,
no, definitely. It's funny that the sad part of the death pool is when it leaves.
It's someone just died and I go, oh, I had them forever in my death pool, but there's no death pool anymore.
Well, out of respect, I always added yourself, just in the same way you'd always add Ralphie May, just like out of respect.
Nice.
But I was happy when I seen you dancing after the house fire, because I'm like, see, now I win because I don't have a death pool anymore and I've still got a Doug Stanhope. So,
it's weird when shit like that happens and you go, oh, I feel something. My house is on fire and firemen are here. Let's have a cocktail.
Yeah, so that's the death of the death pool. But I do have another thing to tie it into suits. Now, this is something I remember hearing once upon a time, and I can't find the reference. Hey, but was the reason?
Hang on one second. Will you grab my my suit, the orangish, but it's not even orange, but it kind of looks orange. I just parade that in the background of the video so people go to the YouTube version. Go ahead.
Nice. So, from what I remember, was a very nice suit there. Audio listeners, you're missing out. But was the reason for the suits because you were living in your car and your clothes got stolen, so you went to a thrift shop to buy stage stuff?
Oh, that's a different suit. Okay. That was the San Francisco comedy competition.
Yeah,
and it's reverse order. I decided to buy a suit, just like a black suit with a tie, just a shitty suit. And I wore that during the competition. And then the night I won, I went home with a waitress, as Warren Zevon said. And I woke up in the morning and I was living out of my car for 3 years at that point. and I left it there. I thought, oh shit, it's going to get towed. I woke up at this waitress's house and I don't know where I am and I have to get to the car. And when I got there, they had smashed out my window and stole all of my belongings. So all I had was a check for winning the competition for $10,000 and a $15 thrift store suit and an Olds Cutlass that I had to drive with none of my shit and a broken window.
That was the Cutlass that you had then, was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
84 Olds Cutlass.
Nice. Just, I think from memory, didn't Ralphie May had a Cutlass as well?
Where else would it come from?
I think Joey Diaz might have mentioned it on his podcast.
No, I was saying you got it from memory. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Damn. Maybe
I don't know what Ralphie May. He had to drive something big enough to carry him around, and a Cutlass seems like that's a deep knee bend for a man of 600 pounds.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we had a moment there where your temp spectrum and my actual one didn't quite mesh up for a second, then we had to resync our notes.
Yeah, that's fine though. It's fine. Who gives a shit? We're not working with an ad coming up. Okay, 30 seconds, people.
Yeah. Another question is for some of the, I guess, your version of the Rat Pack. How'd you get in contact with Chad Shank? Is that just being a local in Bisbee, or?
Yeah, it was someone was haunting me. There was a minute I was on Facebook, that ditch pig that you sleep with between relationships. Facebook was that between MySpace and Twitter, where I'm like, oh, slum it with Facebook, and I don't turn the other way. I don't want to look you in the face. But in that day, someone on my street kept haunting me on Facebook saying, hey, I'm a disabled vet and I heard you like to help people. Can you help me move? And then I ignored it because who wants to help a stranger move? And then his friend, hey, I know my friend lives up the street from you. Can you help him move? And in a moment of weakness, I said, okay. And I put on Facebook, hey, Bisbee, if anyone wants to help this guy move, be here at this address at 7 a.m. And Chad Shank showed up. And this guy, this disabled vet, was younger than all of us, in better shape than all of us. He had hearing loss. That was his disability. And we were so pissed off. Like, I brought everyone that showed up was less able than this person to move shit. But they did, and they moved that guy. And Chad's been around ever since.
It reminds me of a story one of fellow open micers has, where basically he was trapped in his grandfather's retirement home apartment, and one of the janitors collects a group of other retired people from the complex to try and kick the door down. So there's about 5 old Vietnam vets or just trying to kick this door in. One of them's got an oxygen tank. The other one's got a fucking walking frame.
Are you a stand-up? By the way, I don't even know what medium we're in. Is it podcast or radio or
so
podcast?
We're recording this in Zoom, but it'll later become a podcast for YouTube and right. Depending on how great I do the edit. I mean, this could be someone might get to this far in and be champion the fact they listen to it. To this point, I mean, you've got a lot of. Well,
you just said fans. Fuck, so that was one of my questions.
Oh, I'm not trying to monetize it. But
no. I was, because I've done. You're my 4th interview, and one of them was radio, and I have to think back to the last time I did radio. Oh, you're not supposed to say fuck.
Yeah,
radio, but no one listens to fucking radio anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm doing this as a podcast. So I am a stand-up comedian. I've been doing comedy for 5 years. I still call myself an open micer because I think that's sort of what it feels like. I barely do ticketed gigs, but that's where I'm from, and this is my podcast.
We were looking at the how hard would it be to be a stand-up road comic in Australia? because it's huge and underpopulated. Where I could probably do an entire year at a different city every night and do well in America. But there, you have less than a tenth of the people and more size.
Yeah.
Like how hard is it? Is anyone making a living just working Australia?
I mean, usually they have like other spots related to comedy, like they might do radio and TV as well.
Right.
But most of it's just the like festival time of year, which is around this time of year. They sort of do the Melbourne and Sydney comedy festivals and the Adelaide Fringe and that sort of Perth Fringe.
There's not enough places to tour for a year.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like I've got a few mates of mine here in Canberra that have tried to do like tours to like towns of 100 people at like the local club, and you'll get something that looks similar to a group of pensioners ready to kick in a door at a retirement home, rock up.
A good callback.
Well, you know, it was just the visual really, but yeah, that's what happened. The tail end of that story is he was let out of the place to try and find his grandfather. The reason he was locked in there is so his granddad could go down drinking for the day when he was meant to be looking after the kid. The janitor takes him to a local, I guess, our version of Safeway, which is
educate me.
So at this time it was called Franklin's, which don't exist anymore, but equivalent to now would be IGA.
Thanks, because if I dropped Franklin's like I was cool and knew what's going on in Canberra, then I would have looked like an asshole and an old person that doesn't know Franklin's is closed.
Well, it's described mostly as a supermarket for poor people, is Franklin's. But yeah, IGA.
Oh, that's Food City. Yeah, we get that in Sierra Vista. Food City.
Yeah. So we've got his goes in there and basically tried to find the grandfather, and what ends up happening by the end is they're like, so this isn't your real parent or guardian. No, he took me from my grandfather's house, and they ended up arresting the janitor because they thought he'd kidnapped him.
This story is so circuitous.
It's an Aussie story. It's one of those ones you tell down the pub and everyone's like, I'm waiting for a punchline. Just like any of my listeners are. Just like any of my friends now that I do comedy, whenever I mention a story, they're just waiting for like is that a good bit at the end of it?
Please flip over the tape to side B to hear the rest of this podcast.
How well do you do, or do you know?
How well do I know?
No, how well do you do on stage, or do you know? Are you self-aware?
It depends on the crowd. I try to do more risky type comedy, which you probably hear all the time. People being like, "Oh, I'm a risky comedian. Look out, Doug Stanhope. I'm the risky one in town." Yeah,
I don't hear that at all because I don't ever go out or talk to comics.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
but I see what you're saying.
I'm glad to be your first. Anyway, so I think I do quite well. I do a lot of emceeing as well. But yeah, it definitely depends on the crowd. Like I've done some hippie bookshop crowds, which don't quite get on board with, some of my arse eating jokes or whatever the fuck. But then I'll jump into like a bar crowd like you've got at the basement here in Canberra. And that's my main room and it goes quite well. So it really just depends on the crowd.
Nice. How would you be ranked? Like if I asked other open micers behind your back, would they say, yeah, he's the shit?
If you did it, I'd say they would try and promote themselves. But if it was an anonymous survey, I'd say they'd give me a solid 6 consistently.
All right. You're not one of those sheepish, I'm really like Hedberg was, like everyone knew he's way miles ahead of us. and he would be like you. Yeah, no, I'm kind of just an open micer. He'd have that attitude.
I hope I'm more like.
Yeah, I hope you're like that.
Yeah, because if I'm giving myself a couple of extra points and I'm still a 6, that's pretty fucking woeful. Like,
who was your favorite guest before me?
Tom Ballard.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He had the Tonightly Show, which you were on.
Yeah, I was on that show.
Yeah, and the ABC, so the Australian version of the community fucking style media station here in Australia, is put it up on their YouTube as Tom Ballard gets completely destroyed by Doug Stanhope.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I was just talking to that last interview. I didn't remember the guy's name, and I just knew there was something bad there. Where no, I didn't destroy anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know Tom, and I watched the interview, and I was just like, this is just a good interview in the time that was given.
Yeah, that's my problem is I remember there was an issue with that, and I didn't remember what it was, but yeah, my memory is faulty.
Well, that's why YouTube exists. When Jim Jeffries came to Canberra a few years ago, it was like someone was requesting a joke, like a jukebox at the end, like do the bit about this. And he's like, I need to look at YouTube to remember the bit because I completely forgot some of the shit that I've already done.
Yeah, well, he remembered my stuff real well.
Oh, that's excellent. The other question, similar to the Chad Shank one, how did you get in contact? I listened to Notes from the Pen. How'd you get in contact?
First of all, is your podcast about my podcast, or should you tell people who Chad Shank is? Do they already know? Do you just talk about Chad Shank a lot, and then I'm finally here? Chad Shank has been the co-host of my podcast, and he's a friend of mine and where I live.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. You brought up how did you meet Chad Shank without giving the listener any backstory?
Yeah, well, I just put a hat on backwards and hope that the rest of the community would.
That does not look like a backwards hat, by the way, unless you turn sideways. With that beard, that makes you look like you should have the dingly things on the side of your head. Or it looks either Hasidic or Muslim, but it doesn't look like a backwards hat in the least.
Well, in case you were holding back, it is a backwards cap. You could say.
I noticed that right away before we even said hello. When I first saw you on camera, you were looking sideways.
Yep.
And I went, "Oh, thank God that's a backwards hat," because I don't want to say something I don't know. Like it's not a daishiki, I know that, but whatever you call that thing. You keep flame retardant in that beard.
Yeah.
Like
well,
Jeff Ross now. Can I get a drink?
I was thinking more so along the lines of like the not Jeff Ross but more Kanye, because like I didn't want to accidentally slip and be the next like say something bad about Jews podcast. But to be fair, I could really deal with the publicity right about now anyway. Hey, come for me, Adidas. I'll wear your fucking jackets and shit. But yeah,
Adidas, is that how they pronounce it down there? Adidas?
Adidas, Adidas.
Yeah, Adidas is what they say here, but I haven't worn tennis shoes in quite some time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, if they want to correct me,
that's fine.
They know my contact details. But yeah, the next one was just Bobby Caldwell. How did you get in contact with him from the Notes from the Pen podcast?
You know what? And I can say this about a lot of people. Brian Hennigan is one of the few people I know exactly how I met him and when I met him and why I met him. Bobby was an email, and I don't know. I don't know when that started. Bobby is a friend of ours now that I've been talking to for a few years. He's in prison. He accidentally killed his wife, so he's in prison for manslaughter. I think he's doing 12 years. He's got 2 or 3 left. But yeah, we talk on the phone all the time, and he's one of the few people I ever talk to on the phone.
Yep.
Because you can't text.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just talked to him tonight, and yeah, he was fucked up, and he made a mistake, and he's a really brilliant guy, and in a horrible situation, but he's almost on the other side of it. But he's a great writer, just a calm gentleman that did too many drugs, did the wrong kinds of drugs.
Yep. Yeah, that's interesting. No, I'm trying not to make this so much about your podcast because you're right. Not everyone's an enthusiast like myself. Hopefully, after listening to this episode, just out of pure desire to understand the full story, they'll listen to every episode of your podcast and then have the full backstory.
So many of them suck. If I knew podcasting could have been a thing, I would have put way more effort into my podcast. But so many years, I was like, all right, we're just talking. What's going on? Are we done yet? Yeah. So there's a lot of clunkers, but there's some good ones too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to
Margot Robbie.
Put a best of out there for people so they can skip all the dead weight on that podcast. But which one?
The Margot Robbie, I think, the Bisbee local with like the really deep voice.
Oh, Margot. Yeah. Margot Wallenberg.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, she talks like this. She was my real estate person when I called up about the house for sale, and she answered the phone. And at some point I said, "Sir," and she goes, "No, I'm a woman, but it happens all the time. It's all right."
I had a supervisor back in the day when I worked at our version of a better grocery store called Woolworths, and my team manager used to have that voice, but she was the one that was mostly responsible for the PA calls over the whole store.
Well, Chad Shank also has a very deep voice, and we were trying to get them. I don't know if we did it, but to do, "Hi, this is Chad Shank," and him doing, "Hi, this is Margot Wallenberg," to see if you could tell the difference.
All right,
Woolworths, by the way, would be our Franklin's. Woolworths is a thing from 1950s over here. So,
oh, right. Yeah.
I can't believe they still have them over there.
Yeah, well, I mean,
does it still say 5 and dime?
It seems to be one of the bigger ones here, but I guess that's just because we get all the shit that is left over after everyone. Australia's the Danny DeVito in Twins of America's Arnie, and I've got another question here for related to walk-ups. So, like, I've been doing comedy for 5 years. I've had a couple of situations after gigs, mostly when I rag on religion, where someone will just come up to me after the gig and just be like the best one I had was a dude was just completely blind drunk, comes up to me. I've got 4 kids. It's a Tuesday night. And I'm a good Christian man. I'm like, I'm going to stop you there. So who's the beaten missus that's looking after 4 kids while you're out getting drunk off your ass? Have you had any like memorable walk-ups after the show where you're like, I might be in danger here?
Yeah, a few times. And it's always something weird where you have a set full of abortion and fist fuck and whatever. But you said diabetes. My dad has diabetes, and that's not funny. And yeah, I remember one time in Portland where a guy came up to the merch booth that I was manning alone and was like clenching his fist, and he was huge, and he was just trying to either muster up the courage or talk himself off the ledge. And then he went outside and he was going to come back in. And that's when Chaley and Andy Andrus saw that this was going to be a situation and quelled it. But yeah, there's a few times, but it's usually where I should be afraid, but I'm too drunk to be. So It's amusing, which so far has worked out for the most part. I've been on stage where shit happened where I was like visibly trembling and like, all right, something's going to happen. But that stage is a frightening thing to people. A foot high with a spotlight, and people are afraid of a stage.
Yeah, it makes all the difference. It reminds me of when you're in Australia last time in Canberra. My buddy who's got MS is in the wheelchair. He was in the front, and he obviously addressed that there's a dude in the front in a wheelchair. But the thing was, he is such a big fan. He's like, he sort of lost for words for a second when you're like, oh, so why are you in a wheelchair? He's like, oh, I got MS, and like in hindsight, that's a weird way to word it because it's nearly like he didn't have it before, but he like didn't wear a condom.
He caught
and now
it. Yeah. Anti-vaxxer.
Yeah, exactly. He's actually in such a degenerative state of his MS. The only way he'll be able to make it to this show is in a hospital bed that props up. So we're actually trying to organize just to wheel in a dude.
Yes.
In
Hang
a fucking.
on. Yeah, you should. Hey, Alex, take a note on that. Email Hennigan or see what we can do to facilitate that. That'd be fun.
You'd be happy to have a dude in a hospital bed just propped up.
Fuck yes, right in the middle, front row center, and put tables on either side of him.
If you get the angle right, it'll look like he's crowd surfing for a second.
Here's if this happens, I'll tell you the problem. People are going to think it's part of the act and wait for the punchline. I don't know if you read my book about Mother, but when I was doing a UK tour and they said it's a 50-50 whether she'll be alive when you get back. So I said, Mom, I'm not canceling the tour, but I'm going to call you on stage every night and tell people what's going on. And then I'm going to call and say, if you answer, I'm going to say, Mother, are you dead yet? From the old Monty Python, which is a running joke with us, since I was a kid. And if an EMT answers the phone, the show is going to go a little bit awkwardly. So we did that, and every night I'd call her, and people are waiting for a punchline. They don't know that this is a real situation. Yep. This is a real guy with degenerative late stage MS in a fucking hospital bed in the middle of the room. That's what we're talking about. I'm trying to do backstory for Hennigan because he doesn't have cans.
Yeah.
Point being, I would definitely do that. And if a crowd is waiting for a punchline, fuck them.
Yep. Yeah, that's that, and also he was a comedian prior to he can't talk anymore. He can just sort of listen. But he like my bit. I remember one time he was about to go.
So wait. So he's not going to be able to laugh? Fuck him then. We're kidding.
It's more so like we need to sort of have some sort of puppetry in place there to make the noise. Trust me.
Where are you from? What do you do? Oh, dickhead won't talk to me here.
Trust me, it's in the later stages of MS, it's probably more of just a scream than a laugh. You'll probably not be sure what the reaction is you're getting from it. But he used to do stand-up comedy, and that's the bit. Like he told me one of his last gigs he was able to do. He said, "Roast me before you bring me on stage," and I was like, "Look, this is Joel P. He used to be able to. He's been doing stand-up since he could stand up, and he's been wearing those socks since he could walk in them." And then, and then brought him up. But he's a massive Doug Stanhope.
People who are not comedians are so missing out. We talk about this all the time. That's the green room humor that you can't say anything anymore. Yeah, you can in a green room.
Yeah,
because comics are better people than other people. I'm a comedian supremacist.
Well, that's like I said to some of my other open mic mates. I'm like, while we're out on like a weeknight doing comedy, I'm like, some idiots sitting at home watching some reality TV show so that they can forget about their day job for an hour and then go to sleep.
Or they're sitting on social media thinking that everything outside is crazy and chaos, and they're just fear feeding themselves while everyone at your show is everyone's completely normal out here. Get out of the house, buddy.
I don't want to run to overtime. Alex, are we good to wrap?
Yeah.
Yeah. Doug, it's been awesome having you on the show. This is going to be in my podcast episode 82.
What's the guy's name in the cart?
Joel, yeah.
Joel with the MS.
Yep.
We're going to go down to the bar here at the hotel. And my bartender, Mickey, this is an airport hotel, and it's the only bar I'm a regular where they know my name because I stay here all the time. And Mickey has MS and has said she's going to have to cut back her shifts down to part-time. So, yeah. So I will tip her extra in Joel's honor.
Yeah, through the spirit of MS, he will still receive that in some way.
Yes, yeah. He'll be in hell with a coupon.
From 1983, made out to Delta. But yeah, thank you very much for being on the show, Doug. I look forward to seeing you here in Canberra on the 27th.
We will have a pint. You're buying.
Will do. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks.
Don't buy me a drink. Just name names.
Yeah, right. Big Tony. You'll get fucking thrown out of the strip club with your floppy disk.
All day.
Make people feel shame for shit all day.
Don't blow
Turn
it.
it into a hard drive.
Yeah, right. You'll get fucking...
Keep it simple. Count your money.
That they're not proud of.
Just give me $10.
All right.